You've seen this weapon 1,000 times, mounted on tanks, jeeps, helicopters, bombers, featured in almost every American war movie ever made. It's over 100 years old, virtually unchanged since 1918, and with nearly 2 million produced during World War II alone, it remains the most produced heavy machine gun in history. But here's the question most people never ask. What was life actually like for the men who fired it? Because the story of the .50 caliber gunner is far darker than most people realize. Let's get into it. Why the M2 exists. The M2 was born out of failure. During World War I, General John J. Pershing, commander of the American Expeditionary Force, noticed something alarming. German ground attack aircraft were armored, and .30 caliber rounds simply bounced off. So in July 1917, Pershing demanded a new weapon. At least half-inch caliber muzzle velocity over 2,700 feet per second. That was revolutionary for the time. John Moses Browning took his proven .30 caliber design and scaled it up. The result was a new cartridge, .50 BMG 12.7 by 99 millimeters, essentially a massive evolution of the .3006, influenced by captured German anti-tank rounds. They didn't know it yet, but they had just created one of the most devastating cartridges in military history. The first prototype fired on October 15, 1918. Full trials happened 1 week after the war ended, and for nearly 20 years, the gun almost failed. A weapon that almost died. Early versions were disasters. The original water-cooled M1921 weighed 121 pounds and only fed from one side, making it useless in many vehicles. The air-cooled version overheated so badly the barrel cracked after 75 rounds. It was too heavy, too slow, too awkward, too unreliable. A full ground setup weighed up to 170 pounds before ammo. Aircraft couldn't carry it effectively, vehicles couldn't mount it properly. By the 1920s, the M2 looked obsolete. Then Browning died in 1926. But the engineers kept going. Between 1927 and 1932, everything changed. The breakthrough. A universal receiver allowed left or right feeding. A heavy barrel finally solved overheating. By 1933, the M2 heavy barrel was born. Weight, 84 pounds. Rate of fire, 450 to 575 RPM. Effective range, 2,000 plus yards. The .50 BMG delivered 10,000 to 15,000 foot-pounds of energy. For comparison, pistols and SMGs, 300 to 500 foot-pounds. The .50, 20 to 30 times more powerful. It could punch through nearly an inch of hardened steel at 100 yards. Then came World War II, and the M2 finally found its purpose. Death-in-the-sky American bombers were built around a dangerous idea: fly higher than flak could reach, and shoot down anything that comes close. That idea failed. Enemy fighters reached them easily, so bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress and B-24 Liberator bristled with M2s. The B-17G carried 13 machine guns across 9 positions. Most of the crew were gunners, and they were being hunted. The aircraft M2 aircraft versions, called AN/M2, were different. Weight, 61 pounds. Shorter barrel. Rate of fire, 750 to 850 RPM. Some tuned to 1,200 RPM. Because when a fighter screams past you at 400 miles per hour, you have 2 seconds to hit it. Cooling came from freezing slipstream air. German pilots learned quickly, kill the gunners first. Waist gunners, standing in open windows, took 20% of all hits. Casualties, 20% killed, 20% wounded. The worst of all? The ball turret. The ball turret nightmare. The Sperry ball turret was a 44-inch plexiglass sphere hanging beneath the bomber. The gunner curled into a fetal position with twin .5s. Only men under 5 feet 4 inches could fit. Statistically, it was hard to hit, but escaping it? Almost impossible. No parachute inside. To bail out, you had to. Rotate the turret, climb inside the fuselage, find your chute, strap in, jump. If the motor failed or the fuselage was damaged, you were trapped. And if the plane belly landed, you were crushed. Some pilots landed knowing their gunner was still inside, a decision no 22-year-old should ever make. Cold kills, too. At 25,000 to 35,000 feet, bombers were unpressurized. Temperatures dropped to -40 to -60 degrees. Wind through open gun ports caused most frostbite injuries. Touch metal without gloves, and your skin froze instantly. By 1944, more aircrew were lost to cold injuries than enemy fire. One ball turret gunner said, "By the time you reached the target, you didn't care if you came back." The numbers don't lie in the 8th Air Force, 12% killed. Higher casualty rates than Army, Navy and Marines combined. Only 1/3 of bomber crews completed their 25 missions. And the ground war wasn't any safer, the 50 on the ground. By 1945, the M2 was everywhere. German troops learned fast, brick walls didn't stop it. Concrete collapsed under sustained fire, medium tanks lost optics, tracks and armor. Japanese tanks were shredded. The myth says the .50 was banned by Geneva Conventions. It wasn't, but its effect on the